Hi guys, my name is Siposo Musa, also known as So Music Is, and basically today I'm going to be teaching you about a couple of stuff that involve Pro Tools. Most importantly, what I'm going to cover in this video specifically is going to be how to create a session in Pro Tools, and then I'm going to break down the file structure, basically what takes place when you create a Pro Tools session. So we're going to start by opening up Pro Tools, which is very important, obviously. Uh, Most important thing, if you've got Pro Tools on your desktop, you might have to double click on it to be able to run the session or the program basically. And then if you have Pro Tools on your taskbar or dock, if using a Mac, you just need to click once. So I'm just going to open it using obviously from my taskbar, which will be a dock on a Mac, right? By clicking once, and then Pro Tools will start running. As you can see, it opens up. It does take some time to open up because it first reads your plugins and any other files that are basically associated with it running. So I'm just gonna speed up this situation or speed up this video so that you guys can then get to the point where we are running the session. Right, cool. Now that we are here, as you can see, when Pro Tools opens, technically it opens on what we call a dialog box called the dashboard. As you can see, it's written there, the dashboard. If you do open up Pro Tools and you do not see the dashboard, that means, I'm just going to close it here. That means it is basically not the first thing that opens as you see right now. This is how basically Pro Tools might open in some cases. And you basically need the dashboard to be able to create a new Pro Tools session. So if you don't see the dashboard, what you can do is literally come to File right here at the top left corner. Click on it and then click on Dashboard. Alternatively, you can use Command Alt O, right? Not 0, O, yeah, as a shortcut to open the dashboard. As you can see here, we've got now Pro Tools open with the dashboard. Now, most important thing, obviously, if you want to start a new session, you're going to be on this tab here, new. Sometimes it might open on recent. Basically, that speaks to sessions that you have opened recently. But when you're starting a new Pro Tools session, you want to go to new, right? Then you will get an instruction on your brief on how to name your session. It's very important in terms of how you name your session because the name of the session that you place here, right, will also be the name of your session folder, which I'll explain a bit later what a session folder is, and also the name of your PTX file, which is basically the file that runs your Pro Tools session, right? So generally, we'll probably ask you to name it as HCSP, right? And then it would be 110, which is the module code for audio technology, then underscore the assignment number or assignment name. In this case can be CPA 123 or main evidence ME 123, right? And then another underscore, then you're going to use your name, your government name, right, and surname, right? Guys, please do not type your name and surname. When I mean type your name and surname, I mean your government name and your government surname. Right. After you've completed this section right here and you've filled in this name right here, this is basically going to be the name of your session, right? That means the name of the project you're doing, which will then, like I said, will reflect on your session folder and also on your PTX file, which is the file that basically runs your session, right? Then you're going to go and make sure that create from template is unchecked. Yeah, it's very important that create from template is unchecked, and this just ensures that when you actually create a session, it's a brand new session with no audio tracks or instrument tracks based on the template that you chose in it, right? So it's a clean session with nothing in it, right? So please make sure that this is unchecked. Then you will follow through with the file type. Basically, when you're working with Pro Tools, you want to work with waves. That's what also we use at the college. So just make sure that this is bwf.wave. If you do not find it under this particular file type, you can go and click right here, right on this tag right here, and then it will allow you to select the right, or the drop down menu, sorry. It would allow you to basically then select the right or correct file type. Following from there, you might want to work, or you have the option of other options, obviously, like 32-bit float, your bit depth, right? 16-bit, 24-bit. The general one that we work with is 24-bit. We will kind of break this down to you later in the course as to why to choose 24-bit over and above 16-bit or 32-bit float, right? But on standard at the college, we do work with 24-bit. Then you will also choose a sample rate, right? A sample rate that you will be working with most commonly is 48 kilohertz. We used to use 44 kilohertz back in the days, but that was due to the limitations of CDs. CDs would take about up to 44.1 kilohertz. That's what they would allow. So now, since we're in the digital age, we are more than welcome to use 48 kilohertz. Then for your I/O settings, please make sure that you click on the drop down menu, because in most cases you will find it under last used. So you will click on the drop down menu and select stereo mix right here. Now in this case, stereo mix just ensures that your Pro Tools session, the one that you are creating, does not inherit I/O settings from the previous person who was using the same device that you were working on, right? So it just ensures that everything is clean, fresh, and adapts to the I/O settings, or I/O set, yeah, basically adapts to the I/O settings of your sound card that's connected, or any internal audio drive that's connected to your device, you know. So it's something that you should take into consideration, that you do want to start your session with a stereo mix. And then please ensure that interleaved is checked. Now, interleaved, if it's not checked, make sure you check it. Interleaved in this case will ensure that any stereo file that you import or export is basically got the left and the right channel combined, right? You'll find stereo files. Stereo files basically speak to what you hear on your left and what you hear on your right. And then generally, if you uncheck it, right? If it's unchecked, what you generally get then is if you export or bounce, in this case, that's what we basically use, the terminology that we use in Pro Tools, we use bounce, but which means the same as export. So if you export a stereo file, it will have the left and right channels separated, right? Which is what you don't want. You want to try and avoid that. And whenever you import, it will then separate a stereo file into left and right channels, which is something also that you want to avoid, because now that can become confusing and can make your session very messy. So you check interleaved to ensure that any stereo file that you import or export has the left and the right channel combined into one audio. Just remember that, right? Then followed by the prompt for location button. You want to make sure that that is also selected, right? And by selecting the prompt for location button, it will ensure that whenever you click on create session, basically after that you have to click on create session. So whenever you click on create session, Pro Tools itself will then prompt you to choose a location where you want to save your session in, right? Within your device, obviously, that being your computer or Mac. So make sure that your prompt for location is also selected, right? Then you can go ahead and click on create. When you click on create, then you can then now, right, choose the platform or location within your device to save it, right? Generally, I'd always advise people to work on the desktop, and then after that, take their work and move it to their drive, right? Whether it's a hard drive or a USB stick and stuff like that. You then just work on the desktop, and then after that, grab it and move it to your drive so that you can have it in your persons. So I will just, in this case, for example, use my desktop. So I'll select the location of a desktop and I'll click on save, which will then save your session on your desktop. Great. Now that we have our session open, or we've created and successfully created a session, basically what Pro Tools will open, or whenever it does open, it will have what we call the mix window. This is the mix window, right? And as you can see, you'll see it written there, mix window, right? That's the mix. And then you'll have your edit window. So this is your edit window. As you can see right here at the corner, it's written edit, right? That speaks to your edit window. Currently, basically, sometimes whenever you open Pro Tools, it can happen in most cases where when you open it, it doesn't have these windows open like this, right? So that's a clean session. It's a new session. Pro Tools is open, but now the windows are not there. So what you can do is press Command equals, and then the edit window or the mix window will pop up, right? And then if you want to then, for example, let's say the edit window opens like right now, right? We've only got the edit window that has opened. Then you can also click Command equals for the mix window to open. Basically, the shortcut Command equals, right, allows you to switch between the mix window and the edit window. Just take that into note. So whenever you press Command equals, you can switch between the windows, and that will happen a lot as I proceed in showing you in other videos. Whenever I want to switch from the edit window to the mix window, I just use Command equals. Then in some cases, if it doesn't, if you've forgotten the shortcut, another option that you can use, I'll just close them again, is by going to window, right, and then clicking on either mix, which will open the mix window, and then go to window again and click on edit, right, edit window, which will open the edit window right here, right? But what's most important right now is that I want to show you the file structure whenever you've created the Pro Tools session, right? So let's just minimize Pro Tools and go to the session that we created on the desktop, which is right here. It's a bit dark right there. Okay, so right there at the bottom corner, we've got our session. Now this is what we call as selected. Let me just move it into the middle. This is what we call our session folder, right? As you can see in its name, what we named it as. When we created the session, I said whenever you name it on your dashboard, it will become the name or the label for your session folder, right? And also when you click on it, it will also then open up your file structure within your session folder, right? So it's very important to understand that each session has got a session folder. Yeah? Each session has got a session folder. That folder basically contains every single, should I say, file or folder. You understand? That's what I'm trying to get to it. That folder, so that session folder, contains every single file or folder that is associated with your session, right? So if there is something missing from that folder, it might prevent your session from working properly, and you might lose some work from there. So it is very important that whenever you are submitting, now, I'm going to reiterate that it is of ultimate importance to remember that whenever you are submitting your session, right, that means submitting your schoolwork that you've been doing for your assignment, etc. So if you're submitting an assignment that has to do with Pro Tools, you have to submit the session folder. I'm going to close this again so that you can understand this. You have to submit the entire session folder, not the PTX file alone. You have to remember this out of its ultimate importance. It cannot be emphasized as much as I'm emphasizing it now, right? Whenever you're submitting, you have to submit the entire session folder, not a section that's within the session folder. You have to make sure that you submit the entire session folder. This ensures that your session, when it is opened by your lecturers, that it is markable and there's no files missing from it. It is very important that you submit your session folder. Please do not submit your PTX file unless stated so. Remember that, guys. It is of ultimate importance. I cannot stress it enough, right? Then within your session folder, there exist audio files. Any audio files that are recorded, right, or that are bounced. Any audio files that are recorded or that are imported into Pro Tools will be found in this folder right here, right? So any audio files that are associated with your session that it was within Pro Tools will be found in this audio files right here. This is part and parcel of why it is very important that you submit your session folder, because it contains the audio files in it. Do not just submit your PTX files and audio files, because there are other files again that work with your session that are contained in your session folder. And then you've got what we call bounced files, right? So anything that you export, whether it's a video or it's an instrumental that you've made in Pro Tools or a recording that you've made, as long as you've exported it. And when we say you're exporting, basically you are bouncing, because in Pro Tools we don't say export, we say bounce. So you are bouncing it out of Pro Tools and it will land in this folder right here, right? And then I'm going to skip clip groups because they will not apply to you guys as yet. And I'm going to speak to session file backups. Any session file, so every time, right, you press Command S. Command S basically speaks to saving, right? Saving your session. Every time you press Command S, a session backup is created. Pro Tools also has a particular frequency where it saves your backups for you automatically. So it creates backups automatically, so you can always reference. Maybe if something happens and you've lost something somewhere, there's a mistake that has happened with your session, you can always revert back to your session backups and you can always find them right here. And they save a lot of, trust me, they've saved a lot of people. There's already one that's already been created by Pro Tools automatically right here for my session. And every time I press Command S, another one will be created, etc., because I'm saving my session, right? And now please guys understand that session backups will also not work, right, if you do not have your audio files in the same folder, right? It's basically like opening up another version of your session, if you get what I'm saying. So your audio files are important. So it's important again to keep all these files in one session folder that Pro Tools literally creates for you as soon as you create a session, right? Then and another file that I'm going to speak to about is this file. This is your session file. So if you double click on this, right, you're basically opening the session you want to work in, and then it's important to understand that the PTX file, please do not submit it on its own, right? Your PTX file has to be submitted within your session folder like it is now. Just grab your session folder and submit your session folder. I'll repeat again. Grab your session folder and submit your session folder. Literally, I'm moving my session folder around. You double click on it, and then you will see here's your PTX file contained in your session folder, right? So please, guys, remember that, right? Wave cache. Basically, a wave cache is the structure of your waves, right, within your session, right? Basically, it's almost like a metadata that speaks to your wave structures for any audio tracks that you have, right? So just make sure that you also have that within your session folder, right? And basically, that's the file structure of Pro Tools, right? This is the end of this video. basically speaking to how to create a Pro Tools session and also just breaking down the file structure of Pro Tools. On the next video, I'll be showing you on how to import audio. Sharp, sharp, guys. Enjoy your evening or day.